We're back with another box opening. Today we have a couple of boxes, one of which I know is a rather expensive vintage box, and the other one I forget exactly what I ordered, which is a sign of a good time to buy. I guess I'm buying so much that I forget what's coming when exactly, so I'm going to open that one up first because I'm curious. But while we go over that, I do want to talk a little bit about how to not flip but sell boxes for vintage sealed MTG. Because I had a video on how to flip that got a lot of different views, and people were expressing that they're interested in learning more. And I will get more into flips, but I also want to talk about how you can make a bit more money in Magic to the point where you could make a not just a good side income, but technically, I'm making enough money with this side job that I could replace what's likely to be the average salary in the U.S. doing this. Now, that is not stable or regular, right? So again, do not make any recommendations to do this for a living. But as a side job, able to do that, I think people would be interested to hear more about that. So I'm going to cover some of the details while I open up these boxes. And essentially what you're doing, unlike being a flipper where you're trying to buy them and sell them right away, you're more in the business of the investment side of MTG, because like flipping is more like a small little business, whereas selling over the course of, say, 5 to 10 years, which is the amount of time that Rudy talks about doing these as well. I was saying 5 to 10 years before I ever heard Rudy say that, but it doesn't surprise me that that's the timeline that he mentioned in one of his recent videos, because that is like the right timeline. It's a good ballpark figure. I mean, you can sell these boxes in a matter of a few years sometimes and make some profit, but given any handful of years, it's not unlikely that any market goes down, and you're really going to want to have a time horizon of 5 to 10 years in order to see a profit. Let me try to open this without getting addresses. We have some kind of note. Maybe I'll read that off, but I still want to show an address. What does it say? Thank you for the purchase. Oh, I just want to mention a couple of things. I currently have more boxes of cards I'd like to sell. Hey, it doesn't have an address, so I could show it. Have 12 unopened boxes of, Rise the Eldrazi. That's interesting, because I've been looking to buy some of that. I have 5 more boxes of the one you just bought. Have some more boxes packed away of other stuff. I can only sell $1,000 a month on eBay. If interested, my email is below, and we can do this without eBay. Yeah, so what he's going for here is the first transaction you do on eBay as a seller, you can do that transaction and you put contact information in the box. And once you do that, you can take it outside of eBay, and eBay has no problem with this, right? Do one transaction with eBay, then you can exchange contact information, and then you can do deals outside of eBay, saving yourself from the roughly 13% fees that eBay has. And yes, he had contact information right below the fold, so that's what that is. And yeah, this is a person who's, I think, kind of in the flipping business too. I don't have their full background, but I tend to buy from flippers because they get the product extremely cheap. Then they sell it to people like me who are willing to sit on the boxes for 5 to 10 years. And so I'm not buying it as cheap as they were. They're making a profit off me. But I'm still getting it cheaper than the typical market price because they were looking to sell fast to get liquidity, whereas I'm not looking to sell fast. So I'm getting it a little under market value, and I'm willing to wait for the item to appreciate some. So that's kind of what the whole deal with the 5 to 10 year investing is. You trust that the items appreciate over time, like the stock market, and really I view this as alternative investments to the stock market. So I do think overall the stock market is a quote-unquote better return for investment for your time. Start there. If you aren't invested in the stock market at all, other than doing flips, you probably shouldn't be doing investing in for 5 to 10 years. And oh yeah, I have... this is the first original Zendikar box I've ever had. This is a first print run. And a nice box of that. Show that real quick here, and then we'll get back to the story. Yeah, that looks good. But yeah, people will contact me all the time when I buy from them or put, letters in boxes, and you want to buy from those flippers. And honestly, a lot of this business, both for flippers and for people that are going long term, repeat business is a big thing. You're going to want high feedback. You're going to want to make sure your customers love your service, how you wrap and package things, how you ship, how you treat them, because it's not a huge market, right? Vintage MTG, it's not like incredibly small, but it's niche enough where a lot of your business comes from the repeat customers who are looking for different boxes from you. So, yeah, investing in it long term, you're looking for both the growth potential of the asset, the diversification outside the stock market, and as well as what makes it a good investment other than appreciation is getting it for what you can below market value. So there are a lot of people selling boxes out there. Not A lot of people are all looking for top dollar and are willing to wait a while for top dollar. As a seller, you can kind of pick where you want to go in that. You can hold on to these boxes, like I said, for 5 to 10 years and still try to get top dollar out of it. I am sort of in the middle ground where I still try to price all my boxes competitively to make them some of the cheapest available on the market. And, if it takes 5 to 10 years, fine. If not, I'm fine to sell them for slightly less in favor of getting that money liquid and going in the stock market. The problem is that usually when I'm buying these for, I get a little more, I'm able to do more deals. I get volume, but I pay a little bit more for it, for getting those deals, right? Occasionally I get like a steal of a deal, like a flip type of thing, but usually it's, just slightly below market value, where I do need to sit on it for a little while before I'm going to realize enough gains. But if I can sell it for a profit sooner, I will, which means I'm usually selling it cheaper than I would otherwise if I had to wait a little longer type of thing. I hope that all makes sense. There's a whole balance of the time value of money that goes into things, and that's why I recommend for starters to do flips, because while you will not find as many deals that enable you to price at flipping price, it's less risky. You don't have as much inventory on hand that could go up or down in value. Like, for instance, if you started investing in Magic, as a lot of people did over the course of the pandemic, then, you might have had your ass handed to you. You put money in all these boxes, and they did drop in price, like correlated actually fairly well with the stock market this round. Of course, everything correlated well with that, right? Like, even bonds went down. Like, those are supposed to be your diversification from the stock market. I kind of actually view the boxes that I buy as, yes, it's alternative investments. Don't necessarily recommend like counting it into your safe investments, right? But I did view it as safer than the stock market, usually at the prices that I was buying at. And yeah, basically they were somewhere in between bonds and stock market, and I thought it was a less risky investment, but with a slightly better return. Less risky than stocks, more risky than bonds, but with a slightly better return than bonds, maybe a less return than stocks. I was to some degree timing the market with cape ratio and all that, and not timing any particular week of the year or month of the year or anything like that, right? I think that kind of market timing in short term doesn't make any sense, but you can see when the market's overvalued, and when it is, you should probably be shifting more of your assets into other areas outside the stock market, such as alternative investments, etc. That's been proven by people. There's a bunch of different financial advisors. If you haven't looked at my book before, I have a book called Money Smartly. You can sometimes see it in my blurry background in my heads-up videos. But it goes through a ton of research into all these different areas and all these different financial advisors and what they state about what makes sense. And there is a little bit of like cape ratio weighting, timing of the market that actually does make sense. But I do think people overvalue timing of the market, right? Like, It's more about the long-term timing. Like, is the market overvalued or not? Anyway, I'm rambling there. I think you want to get to seeing the box. And we have another quality inspection tab. If anything, that just says that this is more legit. I have no concerns, especially with the buyer I bought from. I have an Alliances booster box. So Alliances is, a staple of the old days. It's a really cool set. And boxes. Well, I think these have this has a ton of cards on the reserve list in Alliances. I do think Rudy was right in saying last year that Alliances is flying a little bit under the radar. It should be worth more than it's priced at. It's come down since then, right? It was priced around $3,000, $3,500, somewhere in there at one point, and it's come down to being more towards the low 2000s. I think this will come back up into the higher 2000s to low 3000s before too long. So this one might end up being, I don't know if I would call this a flip. I think it's going to take probably a year or so before this goes up. I might be able to sell this one, though, in a year at a profit. We'll see. I have several of these Alliances boxes I'm sitting on, just kind of waiting for them to go up. But, yeah, so those are the boxes there. I know I didn't get into a ton of details about how to do the longer-term selling, but you want to view it as your part of your portfolio, right? That's the difference between flipping and investing in Magic for the longer term. You get a little bit of the flip benefit, of when you can get an outrageous deal, buy it, sell it for more, fine. It liquidates quickly. But there are only going to be so many of those deals that you find where you actually provide value to the person who just needs someone who knows about Magic and has a reputation to sell it for them. The rest of the people that have these boxes were collectors way back in the day, follow Magic, are interested in Magic, know people that play Magic, know of stores and ways to sell it, or, have sold things on eBay before or on TCG Player, etc. All those people, they will sell you boxes at, market price or slightly thereunder. And your goal would be to get as good of a deal as you can on it, be fair, be reasonable. I mean, these are normal, it's normal supply and demand economy, right? But from there, you hope it goes up more over time and sell it as it goes up. That's really why I do sealed investing, right? They are not printing any more of these. I know the cards in there they might print more of, but if you want an old-fashioned, really old sealed box of cards to do a draft with, they're not making any more. They're only opening more, right? Especially with YouTube and all these other channels opening these boxes up. There's just less and less of them on the market. And based upon that, I see this as sort of like a crypto that I understand more, right? like Bitcoin and all that. A lot of the point was there's only so many Bitcoin that will ever be able to be mined, and therefore, it's an asset that you can trust won't be subject to all the inflation that's happening, and, well, to being overprinted, let's put it that way. And they're not making any more of these. Who knows? Maybe they can prove me wrong and just reprint exact Alliances boxes for the second time. I do think the true collectors will still want the old stuff. We're kind of seeing that proven out with some of the collectibles on the market. Power 9 has not gone down as much as people had predicted for Magic 30, for instance. But yeah, that's... if this is an asset you can understand and have a passion for, making this a piece of your portfolio, a small piece, the piece that you'll allocate to alternative investments, investing stuff like old vintage sealed boxes makes sense to me. So anyways, if you have more questions about that, maybe I'll dive through the specific details at some time as a heads-up video, not as a box opening. I'm just winging my initial thoughts here rather than planning out, here's exactly how to do it step by step. But thanks all for listening. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.